Welcome back, everyone. Let's talk about actors and events. So in a game, you need to give actors images so that the user can perceive them, and events so that they can do something. Now in traditional coding, what ends up happening is that an actor is a bunch of text and code, and the image location is basically just that. It's just an image location, and you don't actually perceive the image. It's mostly code. In Stencyl, it's done a little bit differently, and it puts more emphasis on the images, so it's a lot easier to understand. Now, the coding is still there, it's just in the Events tab. So if you go ahead and click on any actor, you can go and add in all of the programming functionality in the Events tab. Let's talk a little bit more about events. Events are powered by two main items. First, a condition must be met. Then an action takes place. A condition is something like a mouse click, or a timer running out, or something being created, or something that's always happening. An action is something like moving the actor or destroying an actor. There are many different kinds of events and actions, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. To add a condition, all you need to do is go to the arrow and click Add Event. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds of conditions that must be met. And what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment and explore them all and see if you can brainstorm some possibilities that you could use for each one of them. Welcome back, everyone. Let's talk about the way Stencyl programs versus regular programming. So Stencyl does everything visually, and it simplifies everything visually. So if you've ever taken a look at code, it's actually quite hard to understand if you just take a look at it. Stencyl makes everything very easy, where you can just drag and drop. Now, just because we're using Stencyl, it doesn't necessarily make the games a lot easier. The only thing that it does is it takes out the hassle of typing, and it also takes out the hassle of syntax. And what syntax is basically when you type a line of code, it is the exact order in which you type that line of code. So by dragging and dropping everything, it makes things a lot better. You still have to learn logic, but it makes things very, very easy. There are many different kinds of visual programming languages, but Stencyl is the closest to actual programming. And what I mean by this is that, there are other ones, for example, Game Salad and then Construct 2, which are fantastic engines, but they actually do and make the visual programming a lot different from actually programming. This way, and you'll see in another tutorial that you can actually go ahead and see the difference between what you write or what you put in Stencyl and what actually comes out as code. You can see that it's actually fairly similar. And learning the visual programming commands is very close to how it is in actual code. So like I said, Stencyl is the closest to being actually coding. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, now that we've talked about events, let's take a quick look at what we can do here. So if we click on this event right here, you can see you can add in a whole bunch of different kinds of conditions. So we can click the when creating, and as you can see, this is when the actor is created. And it makes a little bit of sense as to each one, or what each one is. So as you can see, there's a when drawing. So this is basically the same as whenever it's drawing, we can go ahead and add in some different kind of events right here. So again, we can go and put the when updating. There are so many different kinds of events that you can actually add in. There's a whole bunch of input. So for example, keyboard input, we can have focus input, the click, or the mouse. We can also have time, so after X many seconds, or every second. So for example, for this one, you can say after 5 seconds spawn this enemy, or in this one you can say every 5 seconds spawn this enemy. You can pause the game. There are so many different kinds of conditions you can meet. So as you can see, there's collisions, because when you're making a game, your actors are going to collide with one another. There's different kind of sounds. Attributes are a little bit different. We'll talk about that in another tutorial. And then there's a whole bunch of these custom events that you can add in there. So why don't you go ahead and just take a quick look at all of these and see and just kind of brainstorm on what is going to happen.